Hello, welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old England games and ask just how England was this.
Today, we're covering a classic World Cup opening game where one Greenwood. Do you want to give it a start?
Do you want me to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old England games and ask just how England was this.
Today, we're covering a classic World Cup opening game where Ron Green. I'll do the first bit.
Well, I know the trip up point now, don't I?
Right. Wello.
Jonathan Ross over here.
Hello, and welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old England games and ask just how England was this.
Today, we're covering a classic World Cup opening game where Ron Greenwood's England start their campaign in Bilbao against an exciting French side led by one Michel Platini.
Oh, we got there in the end.
We did indeed, mate.
Well, the listeners won't know, but that took me a few attempts and you had to step in to save me. I couldn't say Ron Greenwood. I can now.
Perfect now, isn't it?
We had one Greenwood and Ron Greenwood.
We were almost crying by the end of it, weren't we?
Oh, so we're covering a World Cup opening game from 1982.
Yeah.
Very exciting stuff. Before we get into it, we'll do our time capsule. So the year's 1982. In my mind, I'm thinking GTA Vice City, or that was maybe a little bit later than
What, it's set there,
82.
is it?
Oh, have you not played it? It's very 80s. It's Hawaiian shirts and all that stuff.
I probably would have, yeah. I was thinking, like, that wasn't released then. I was like, what on earth are you on?
That was advanced, very much advanced for this time. I'll start.
Okay.
I'm putting in a movie,
A movie, okay.
The King of Comedy, a really, really underrated Robert De Niro, Martin Scorsese movie. I don't know if it is underrated, actually. It's under-recognised, perhaps, but I think people do rate it. Similar tone and themes to Taxi Driver, but in a really different setting. It's a kind of eerily predictable of the world we live in today in terms of instant fame and everybody thinking that they have a birthright to be famous and recognised by people. Also, the Joker movie, or just Joker, I think, with Joaquin Phoenix was a complete takeoff of this, so very influential. Have you seen it?
I've not. It's been on my watch list for a long, long time now. I remember it was on. I think it's got a lot of publicity because it was so taken from, well, for Joker, wasn't it?
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
Like, a lot of it came from there, and even De Niro's in it as well. Obviously, playing a similar character.
No, so a little bit of a spoiler maybe, but there's a I guess De Niro's playing similar to what Joaquin Phoenix is. Obviously, not as weird as the Joker, or maybe even more, just in a more realistic way. But De Niro's character in The King of Comedy covets a TV show host. He's the one he latches on to try and get this fame. So his way of finding fame is like, you got to get me on your show. Like, give me 2 minutes to do a bit of stand-up at the start of the show. Like say, Jerry Seinfeld or somebody would have done back in the day. It's a dark film, but well worth a watch. And yeah, we can pretend to be all film
Again,
film buffs in our little time cave.
look, Mark Commode's not going to talk to us, all right? Even though he's leaving the BBC, we're not going to get on there. I've thought about it. It's not going to happen.
Let's pivot into a film podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we could just watch Mike Bassett every week
Is
and
this
comment
films?
on it. Is this Mike Bassett?
Or we always get a reference to it, don't we? Well, something slightly different for me. I'm putting in the opening of a nightclub.
Okay.
So in
Oceana in Wolverhampton?
No, not quite. No.
Planet in Wolverhampton?
Oh, you got it. Not really.
It's that one we went to in Telford before.
Mind goes blank from those days, doesn't it? Yeah, it's the Hacienda nightclub opening in Manchester. So in 1982 it opened. The club, owned by Tony Wilson of Factory Record fame, was open to small crowds, but soon became the epicenter of house and rave culture in Manchester and kind of later in England. So it's kind of the birthplace of this kind of movement. I mean, 1982 is a bit early for that type of music, but it's kind of where it originated. And without this, we wouldn't have the excellent film, back to film, 24-Hour Party People.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's a great film. Steve Coogan.
Keegan doing a brilliant job on it. There was something I was listening to a couple of weeks ago, and they played. I think it was on Six Music, and they played a little clip of that, Guess the Year, and I think it was of when the film was released of that. But it's a brilliant film, and yeah, Hacienda was just really influential and all that kind of stuff later on, and really birthing all that music and that culture.
I agree. But I remember watching that film when I was 24-hour party people, when I was probably a bit too young for, because it's not as like. It's not as in your face as you'd expect. It's perhaps a little bit more subtle and focusing on different issues rather than just going, "Oh, weren't the Happy Mondays mental?"
Yeah,
which is obviously in it to some degree, but
and it's not as excessive as other films like Human Traffic or something like that either. That which is kind of the whole thing kind of takes place, but it doesn't take place. It's all a lot of scenarios that aren't real. I don't know if anyone can hear that. We've just got seagulls outside the recording studio today, and we just had them invade our space. But yeah, that's what I'm putting in kind of the start of a big cultural movement, even though if it didn't take off yet.
Excellent. So the state of football, we always take a look at the context surrounding the game that we're covering, not just at international level. We usually start in England, which is where we'll start today. There's quite a big rule/law change, Nick.
Yeah, so in English football, 3 points for a win were first introduced in the idea of hoping to encourage more attacking football and for teams to actually go and win games instead of kind of settling for points. So it'd be 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw still.
Yeah, so if you were to get a win, it would have been 2 points then.
Yeah.
And you just, sometimes you're just like, you know what, instead of risking it.
Is it worth going for that extra 1 point when in reality, that extra 2 points could save you, put you into a really much better league position and maybe even win you the league?
Yeah, well, it's certainly stuck. It's hard to imagine the game without 3 points for a win. There's always talk of rule changes. I mean, do you remember any? I feel like Arsene Wenger's always banging the drum for these like, if you score the most goals in the league, you get 2 extra points a season or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was always talk from Van Basten. I don't know why these people all of a sudden someone listens to them for a week and it's like, Van Basten wants to get rid of offsides.
Coming to think of it, I feel like Wenger was saying that when Arsenal were like winning the league every year and smashing it.
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's up to much at the minute. I think he works for FIFA and he's trying to get that every 2 years World Cup off the ground, which just sounds awful. I just hate that.
Imagine our workload.
I think we'd literally run out of World Cup games very, very quickly, wouldn't we? Even though we've got one ready today.
Yeah. So let's start at the bottom of the table in England then. Middlesbrough and Wolves relegated from the top division, joined by Leeds United, who only 7 years earlier had played in the European Cup final. That's a fall from grace.
Yeah, staggering, really, isn't it? From the days of Don Revie and winning league titles and going on to play in the European Cup final, losing that game as they did. But yeah, just a real drop from grace, as you say, and actually it reflects kind of what happened years later as well when Leeds were in a Champions League semi-final. Then a couple of years later, again they were relegated again. So they've got a bit of history for that stuff too.
Yeah, well, a quick spoiler for the game ahead. We don't spot a Wolves flag, or you didn't.
I mean, definitely no. I mean,
not the quality of the stream we watched.
No.
But Wolves, relegated from the top division alongside Middlesbrough. Obviously, Wolves are back up there now, and Middlesbrough, I feel, always kind of fighting for that place.
Yeah, they're always around playoff places, aren't they, these days?
Wasn't Warnock there not long ago? It's hard to remember where he comes and goes. I feel like he was trying, and if he couldn't do it, God knows.
Yeah, I think again it changes so quickly there, doesn't it? I think Warnock has declared now that he's retired now. So it was a couple of weeks ago as we were recording the pod that it was done.
Yeah, the England manager that could have been.
Oh my God! And the thing is, I mean, like decades previously, he probably would have had like a league title or two to his name. He'd have been like, because it was that wide open back then. It wasn't just these couple of super clubs that can win the league apart from a freak. Then you'd have him like maybe if he'd be at a QPR when they had some good players. You could have easily seen him kind of like worming his way to one.
And I guess like a what would you call it? Like a hotbed of English managers as well. So he wouldn't be competing with people from different footballing cultures. And maybe he just got English football right. He seemed to like, he was a good manager.
I always love those videos that surface of like the comparison with Guardiola when he's like, right, everyone fucking sit down, listen. And then and Warnock's just like doing the exact same thing as him, but through the mirror of Warnock.
Completely different style.
It's so good though. He's a bit of a twat, but I do quite enjoy the stuff around him. It's one of those people you just can't help but like, oh, that is funny though, and he does he mean it? Does he not? He's very
But then he does seem to be like a very much like a people person as well. If you've seen the QPR documentary when
I love that documentary.
he comes into kind of
4-year plan, is it?
Oh yeah, comes in to kind of save the day, doesn't he? And he does.
Yeah. I think that's a fantastic documentary. I remember watching that at university and just being kind of blown away because right at the start of it, they're actually, I think it's like some of the management or the board are just basically looking at the manager underneath and going, "Well, he's shit. He's going, isn't he?"
Yeah.
And it's just so funny having that kind of an access, like similar to what we got in the Impossible Job, really.
True.
It was warts and all, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Let's get back to the state of football at the time. Aston Villa are in the thick of things.
Absolutely, yeah. So previous league champions Aston Villa only finished 11th in the league table, but they went on to win the European Cup against Bayern Munich in Rotterdam. I mean, what a story, really, from a rise from kind of getting promoted and then going through to win the league, then kind of win the Champions League, the European Cup as it was at the first attempt as well.
Amazing, yeah, and so the league form suffered while they're out there beating Bayern Munich in Rotterdam. Is there much about the game that we can reference?
So England international Peter With scored the only goal of the game, but the final's mostly remembered for Villa's inexperienced goalkeeper Nigel Spink coming off the bench and just keeping Bayern Munich at bay with a string of brilliant saves.
Where have we heard a similar story before?
Oh, go on then. What, a keeper coming off the bench to make a big impact?
Not necessarily off the bench, but a keeper who was underestimated by some.
I mean, you're going to have to help me out here.
A Polish goalkeeper from 1973.
Our man Tomaszewski. Yeah,
that's what I thought when I looked at this game. An inexperienced keeper pulling off all these great saves, and there you go.
Yeah.
Aston Villa, kings of Europe.
Yeah, this was a real big period for English football as well because you had English teams dominating. So they had 6 consecutive winners come from England, Liverpool 3 times, Nottingham Forest twice, and then Villa here.
So do you know when that 6-year run kind of started and ended?
So it ends here. This is Aston Villa's one. So then going backwards is where that is. So Forest win it in successive years. I think Liverpool win it in successive years before them, and then Liverpool, then Villa. I mean, I'm probably wrong, but I think that's about the time period. So 70s into the 80s.
That's interesting because just jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit, English football has been dominating for 6 years, but England national team have been in the doldrums for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, I don't know if it was because there was a lot of home nations players in these teams that were kind of really helping with that, but maybe just the pure English talent, like we get into, that we covered in the Poland game for '73. Kind of English talent's not quite there. They've not got over losing the World Cup players, but they've not brought in the new ones as well that were going to kick on and do really well. But this crop of England players we're going to talk about today, I think that there is a new generation coming through there, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, this is let's sort of get into the talking about the game and the everything surrounding the game. It's a World Cup opener, so England have qualified. But first of all, why have we chosen to do this game? I think this was one of your picks, Nick. So maybe you're better placed to answer that.
Yeah, well, I just thought it's not too long since we've had the World Cup draw, and we looked at the USA game, obviously, as you mentioned, and that was an opening game where it didn't really go well for England. But I just kind of wanted to watch an opening game where there was a lot, not a lot of hope around it, but there was a lot of excitement because England just hadn't been at a World Cup for so many years. Whole new crop of players. It's a World Cup in Spain, so it's going to look a lot better as well on the TV. Not the version we watched, but there's that excitement around it as well. Of what if it could go well? Maybe
it's a proper team as well, isn't it? When you start a tournament against a proper team,
yeah,
well, at least you're not going to have to wait and to find out whether we're just going to be found out.
Yeah,
and if we beat them, then the sky's the limit.
Absolutely, yeah, and it is a really, really good French team as well, as we'll get on to.
Yes, well, let's start with England then. Ron Greenwood is England manager. He'd been West Ham manager from 1961 to 1974 and was appointed England manager in 1977, succeeding Don Revie. First of all, there's a few green flags or whatever, a few things in there where I'm thinking, okay, West Ham manager from 1961 to 1974 must mean he's worked with big English players because obviously almost like the spine of that 66 winning World Cup was from West Ham.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's seen as them, it's always said about, West Ham won the World Cup because they had 3 players in the starting team for England. It's similar to when Arsenal fans would say that they won the World Cup when France won the World Cup because you had players coming from there too.
Yeah. So he'd overseen the development of Bobby Moore, Jeff Hurst, and Martin Peters. So that's not bad, is it? Not a bad contribution.
Not bad on your CV, just tick those off.
And at West Ham, he'd done really well as well. He'd won the FA Cup in 1964, European Cup Winners' Cup in 1965, the first two major trophies of the club's history. Kind of went a little bit downhill from there, but he's obviously very well respected and was moved upstairs, as they say, in 1974, becoming general manager. That's a SmackDown reference if I've ever heard one before. But yeah, and moved to the England job in 1977, so 3 years after becoming general manager. It seems a bit of a strange one, almost like United with Ragnick, where they took a man who's used to, who's been out of coaching for a bit and give him a big job.
It's strange, isn't it, with that? You would see it going the other way around, where, I could see him moving upstairs, and that's kind of where they stay. But the situation for bringing him in must have just been like, well, it's not worked out with Don Revie for various reasons. We're kind of stuck here with what we do next.
Yeah,
maybe he was just the best available person. I mean, around this period, you'd be thinking Clough's not long won the European Cup, so you think,
can we get him almost?
Can we get him? And maybe this was the time you probably say, should they have got him? I mean, again, I don't think he probably would have done as well with England because he was such a volatile character. He'd want to make too many changes. The FA still very stuffy, and
he probably wouldn't have wanted to succeed a Revie.
Well, yeah, that's another point, isn't it? Would he be cursed by that of like, well, I'm not going in again to do a Don Revie there because, But I guess, he wouldn't have the baggage. He'd have a bit more of a free role to say, actually, you failed here. I will succeed here because I'm Bryan Bloody Clough.
Yeah. Well, Greenwood, on his own terms, really good start, considering, England hadn't qualified for a tournament in 10 years, but they'd qualify for Euro 1980 and a really successful run in that tournament.
Yeah, they only lost 1-0 to Italy in the semi-final, which is seen as a period of success, really, for Greenwood. I mean, it was a bit of a stranger tournament. I think you kind of went there, and it was a lot shorter, but it was still seen as, England have got to a major tournament for the first time since 1970.
Yeah, the semi-final's good going, I mean, by any stretch,
Again, I think Italy may have even won it themselves. So, yeah, a great achievement.
They probably did, mate, if our track record's anything to go by.
a Euros.
If we don't win, game. Which we never do, whoever beats us
Kingmakers is seen, this is phrase, isn't it? England Kingmakers.
Well, I was quite a bit fascinated by the stats surrounding Ron Greenwood. Why do I keep struggling with his name today? Ron Greenwood. So I Googled some quotes to see what kind of a man he was. I knew nothing about him at all prior to doing a little bit of research. Some quite funny quotes here. I think a couple of them may pop up on the screen in Mike Bassett's. Maybe not the ones I've chosen, but they have ones every now and then.
Football's not just a game; it's much more than that and stuff like that. That's not him, but yeah.
So tell me what you think of these then. From Ron Greenwood. Playing with wingers is more effective against European sides like Brazil than English sides like Wales.
That's lovely, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know why. I took a note of that yesterday, and I was like, English sides like Wales, obviously European sides like Brazil as well. He's doubled down on getting it wrong there.
I know he seems quite quotable. This guy, from what you've kind of put down, definitely.
Another one, Glenn Hoddle hasn't been the Hoddle we know, and neither has Bryan Robson.
He's not been the Hoddle we know either, has Robson.
One more of his more silly ones. To me personally, it's nothing personal to me. What's he talking about?
I think we need to see some interviews of this guy.
I feel like he might be doing these tongue in cheek or little wink. This one I thought was quite interesting for different reasons. So he's talking about sort of his time at West Ham, I guess, in not when they're lifting trophies and what have you, but he says, the crowds at West Ham haven't been rewarded by results, but they keep turning up because of the good football they see. Other clubs will suffer from the old bugbear that results count more than anything. This has been the ruination of English soccer.
Is that where maybe the famous West Ham way comes from? I mean, I do think a lot of that stuff of the West Ham way, Liverpool way, Man United way, all the Arsenal way, I think it's all a bit silly, and in reality, winning football matches is what gets people in the ground, isn't it? Most of the time. I know the attacking football helps and playing it nice, which is his philosophy by the sounds of it.
Well, I thought more of something that you'd said on a previous recording, which was around the lines of, you forget how many good teams never win anything, and it's not necessarily about winning trophies at the end of the day. It's about the experiences along the way. Obviously, they would have won things, and then just maybe, like you say,
maybe it's that drop off that comes from winning things and then still having him around, and it's like, well, at least we have won something. But yeah, a lot of great teams that people love and remember don't win a lot of things. I mean, like that by Leverkusen team we talked about a couple of weeks ago as well. They don't really have the money in the bank to be able to do that. But what they've got is memories, which I think are incredibly important. But when you look at a top side like some of the sides that we talk about, it is run by that, like a Man United and Liverpool. It's you need to win trophies no matter how, whatever you do it, and that's kind of like Mourinho taking it to that level of, well, I'm winning stuff. What more do you want?
Another good sort of trophy list team example is England 1967 to 2022.
Yeah, I mean, we keep turning up, don't we? We just keep turning up.
One more thing before we get into the World Cup qualification campaign for Greenwood. A major landmark during his tenure was the selection of the first black player for England, Viv Anderson, in 1978. Greenwood at the time stated, "Yellow, purple, or black. If they're good enough, I'll pick them." Quite an old-fashioned way of putting it, but
yeah, I mean, you'd probably want to put it a lot better than that these days.
I'd take yellow out. I would go for the unrealistic colours.
I mean, just say, whoever the skin colour is, just I'll pick them. I mean, I guess that's a very old way of trying to say everyone's kind of welcome within the team, and it shouldn't be an issue. Obviously, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, but I guess it took somebody to actually draw the line in the sand and make that selection. I doubt it was one that was met with complete joy from all quarters. You know what people are like.
Yeah.
Anywho, Big Ron, he's got to guide us to the World Cup. How are we going to get there?
So, their sights set on World Cup qualification. England are drawn in a group with Hungary, Romania, Switzerland, and Norway. The UEFA qualification had expanded to 5 teams compared to 4 at the previous World Cup and 3 for the previous one too. So you can see there's more FIFA registered and UEFA registered nations. So it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's getting harder to qualify as well. There's some. On paper, you don't think that these teams are very good, but they'd soon pop up and causing us some problems.
That would be a tough draw today. A 5-team group of Hungary, England, Romania, Switzerland, and Norway.
Yeah, I think Romania and Hungary, their current sides aren't probably in a great way. Norway have kind of got Haaland, and it's about it. And then Switzerland would be. I mean, it feels like England plays Switzerland in like just nothing games all the time, don't we? Even like recently as March.
So you're disagreeing with me there? You're disagreeing with my point.
I think it would be. I think the thing is though, a lot of those teams today are seeded around the same level. There's not an Andorra because they're probably not in here yet, but I think it's harder when we get onto the French one later as well. That is an incredible World Cup qualifying group they have to go through too.
Oh, exciting! England start the qualification with a 4-0 win over Norway.
Slugs. There you go.
Yeah. They actually win all of their home games during qualification, but find games abroad a little tougher. Maybe a bit of that travel, like we were talking about before. Having a toll. Losing games in Romania and Switzerland. A bit of drama after that Switzerland defeat.
Yeah, after the Switzerland defeat, Greenwood allegedly resigns on the flight to the next game away at group leaders Hungary, but he's talked out a bit by his players and staff. Incredibly as well, England win 3-1 in Hungary to put themselves in a good position. I watched some of the highlights of this game actually, and it was real make or break stuff for England in this one. And yeah, they pull a result out of the hat. And we then come to the September in 1981 in the next qualifying game away to Norway, and it's a clip really. A lot of people, like you say, will know where it's from, but in reality, it's just like, well, what was this? When did this happen again?
Yeah, you can't quite place it, but it just kind of lives amongst us all the time.
Yeah. So the Norwegian TV commentator Bjørg Lindlien declared,
"Vi er best i verden. Vi har slått England. England, kjempers fødeland. Lord Nelson, Lord Beaverbrook, Sir Winston Churchill, Sir Anthony Eden, Clement Attlee, Henry Cooper, Lady Diana. Vi har slått dem alle sammen. Vi har slått dem alle sammen. Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating. Maggie Thatcher."
Ooh,
it's so good, isn't it?
It's quite scary.
The way he's shouting it as well, isn't it? It's very. It's just terrifying.
Yeah,
it's almost like you don't know where he is in your house. I mean, if he's just shouting, it's like, where the hell is he?
Lady Diana? Is he talking about Lady Princess Diana?
Yeah.
Is it not a bit early?
Early 80s, I think, or like kind of Diana became a public figure, I'm guessing. Yeah, but again, it's like Churchill, Thatcher, like all these
Yeah.
people. It's just Anthony Eden. I was just like, what?
When he was saying your boys took one hell of a beating, is he meaning we beat them?
Yeah.
Or is he saying fair play, it was a tough game?
No, that is definitely, look at these idiots here. Your boys, we smashed them around, didn't we? It's so good. And it's that used so much as well in like regular culture. I remember when Italy went out of the World Cup a couple of years ago, and there was one of those where it was just listing all these comedy people, like the Super Mario Brothers got brought into it and everything. But
What a fountain of memeage.
I know, yeah. But one incredible, an incredible night for Norway, and they were almost like an amateur team at times. Norway. I mean, they don't really get many points in the group here, but.
No, you're right. They finished bottom of the group.
Yeah, and after that tongue lashing from in Norway, England do recover, and with Romania only drawing in Switzerland the week before, England beat group winners Hungary 1-0 thanks to a Paul Mariner goal to qualify on the final day.
Or leaving it late, as always.
Leaving it late and also needing other results to go their way. I find World Cup qualification around this time very strange because it seems that loads of teams play their games up front. And then you kind of end up playing like Hungary, that England played them twice in 3 games right at the end of qualification.
Yeah.
And you just think, where's the scheduling going on around this? And like, I know because it all has to happen on the last day now to make sure that, there's no strange results. But I just find it fascinating where they're just like, yep, you play the worst team twice in 2 games. You can just smash them around, or you've got to play the best team when you're maybe losing a lot of your players or injured or not selectable.
I don't know. I kind of like the almost random element of it.
I mean, doing the research for these kind of things, you just go, wow, they played them at this time. This is really fascinating.
So England are going to the World Cup for the first time since 1970. This is actually their first successful qualification campaign since 1962.
It's wild, that, isn't it?
20 years since a successful World Cup qualifying campaign, as we say. Obviously, 1970 they were defending champions, and in 1966 they were hosts.
I think that both those rules have been. Well, no, the host still exists, but if you're a defending champion, you don't get that qualification now anyway, do you?
You should, in my opinion.
Yeah, just to keep things interesting.
You deserve to be there. I can't imagine many would like it because you're kind of just not playing competitive games for a while.
Wasn't it a thing? Or maybe you still get put into. I think. I was going to say, maybe there was something a while ago where I think France were hosting a Euros and they didn't have to qualify for it, but they still got put into a qualification group.
Yeah.
So they had like a guaranteed spot no matter what in there.
So who came second would be top.
Yeah, and then it goes kind of down. I just think, well, it's kind of pointless because
that's a stupid solution.
Because you think at that point, well, if they're going to win all these games, well, they're just smashing these other teams then. It's probably taking up a top-seeded spot as well. And that's not really beneficial for France because it's essentially a friendly. They're not gaining anything from those games.
Yeah, they're pretending that they're competitive, aren't they?
Yeah.
And there's only so much you can pretend.
I just think it's stupid. I don't know if that's still a thing with Euro qualification, but I know like Qatar just went straight through, didn't they, this time?
So the World Cup's in Spain. England fans are going to get to travel abroad and obviously represent their country impeccably with fine behaviour. It's the first time for some fans in their lifetime that they would be seeing England in such a prized competition.
Yeah, and there was a swell of support as well around the England team, and it's evident in the attendances in the qualifying too. So the attendance levels grew at home games throughout the campaign. First game drawing 48,000 fans, and the final win over Hungary with a 92,000 sellout.
That's great, isn't it? So the first few games, 48,000 fans, and then by the end of qualifying, 92,000. I mean, that's good evidence.
I think so. I think they just hadn't believed in an England team for so long as well, and then like I say, you get this new crop of players that come along and you just think actually it's worth going to these games and it's worth showing up and supporting the side. And you find that kind of as well in the last World Cup that we had.
Yeah, I agree.
When it was kind of like, well, England aren't expected to do much, not really asked about it. The games leading up to it as well, I mean, I think they were against like Brazil and Germany. None of them were sellouts, and then people weren't really interested in them. Now, as we've mentioned before, golden Wembley moments, like it's a lot harder to go and watch England because the need is there for people to go want to what they feel like.
I imagine that the country would have got quite disassociated with the team as well, and it feels like maybe this young generation is exactly what they need.
Yeah.
So there's big players in there. I'm looking at a picture here. You've put Kevin Keegan.
Looking good, isn't he?
He's looking very good, I've got to say.
The cheekbones are there and everything.
Lovely hair. Lovely top.
Yeah, it's that nice early 80s aesthetic now, isn't it? Going from the 70s to the 80s, and we'll get onto one of the England kit later. I think you've said it's maybe your favourite kit we've seen so far.
Yeah. Oh, that's coming up, listeners. So just the tournament build up to go for from England's point of view. They arrive in Spain, unbeaten in 7 games since that famous night in Oslo. Winning all 3 games against Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland in the home nations round robin. They just sneak a home nations tournament in, don't they, all the time?
You look at some of the dates for them as well. It's always like February, March, April. It's like every month we're doing home nations, are we?
We should.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, again, we've got the Nations League now, but for those little gaps, I just think just do one. It's fine. People want it, don't they?
Yeah. No way. I can't believe they just snuck one in like that.
Yeah.
By the way, home nations is a little bit of a warm-up. Thank me later.
But so they'd also scheduled around the tournament, became a bit of a problem for England, as these things usually do. They only had 2 games in May, which coincided with the FA Cup and the European Cup final, with Tottenham and Villa partaking in each respectively. This meant that Greenwood had to pick from a depleted squad a few weeks before the tournament. Not too dissimilar today, but he had a policy of rotating Peter Shilton and Ray Clements.
Oh God!
So with one of them kind of at this point playing in the final for Spurs, he kind of picked Shilton to say, "All right, then you're going to be my number 1 here," because again the rotation seems quite strange for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I don't.
Even this time, before rotation's a thing, really.
We've only really seen Peter Shilton getting criticism on the podcast so far. I think that's fair. But even here, I mean, you're not number 1 if you're being rotated, are you? I can't imagine anyone was happy with that.
No, but even saying that, this is very England, where you've got 2 world-class players in one position and you can only play one of them, and you're probably really struggling in others as well.
Yeah, oh God, yeah, absolutely. We do have some really, big names and big stars coming through. Obviously, the head of all of that is Kevin Keegan.
Yeah, and with that brings its own problems, because he's England's kind of star player around this time, and the linchpin, he's going to get injured before the tournament.
Yeah.
So Keegan came into the tournament nursing a back problem. And Trevor Brooking suffering a groin issue as well. Both starters for England usually, both key players in the win away in Hungary, which is seen as the blueprint for any England success in the future.
So they're still taken.
So they still go to the World Cup, but they don't play in this game because they're not fit yet. I think maybe a little later in the tournament they show up.
Yeah.
But at this point, they're not selectable.
Well, it just shows how good they are, you know?
Yeah, especially in these days where you might still have a squad size of like 22, 23 or whatever, but players on the bench, you think, well, I've got to have someone there to come on and change a game.
Sure. So that's England. We've seen them go from the crushing lows of a half sold out Wembley, all the way through to the squad for the final. They're coming in a little bit short of a few players injured, but on riding a good wave of positivity. What about France?
Yeah, on paper, a really difficult group for France. They have Belgium, Republic of Ireland, and Netherlands all drawn together, along with Cyprus, who lost all 8 games anyway. But now that's a tough group. France, one of their early golden generations. Belgium were very fancied and kind of did go far in other tournaments that came. Republic of Ireland, a bit of a lost generation for them and a lost team, kind of seen as many people of one of the great island sides. And Netherlands, not that long ago, actually getting to a World Cup final.
Interesting. That's a tricky group, and France would have obviously fancied themselves to have qualified, as you mentioned. It's a strong team, but how did they go about their qualification?
So in the end, there's only 2 points that separate 4th and 1st in the qualification, and then this is still 2 points for a win as well. So essentially, if one team would have won an extra game, they probably would have finished top. If you're 4th. So. France seemed on course to qualify, but lost in Belgium before they travelled to Lansdowne Road. This was the Republic of Ireland's last game and last chance to register any points. They managed to beat France 3-2. It's really worth looking at the highlights of the game. As for the Republic's 3rd goal, Jean-Francois Laurie passes the ball back to Michael Robinson and immediately just falls to the floor with his head in his hands. I've put it still in our notes, and you can just see him on the right, just face down, hands there, because he doesn't even strike the ball yet, Robin. He doesn't even strike the ball yet, Robinson. He's already like, I can't even get back to help that. He just puts it straight into his path, and they smash it, and that's 3-1.
The keeper looks like he's just walking towards him as well.
You probably can't believe it though, because this is still in the day of the back pass.
Yeah.
So you've still got, okay, well the keeper's there or someone's there, but the blind pass he plays is stunning. It really is.
So that victory meant that victory for Ireland meant that France needed to win their final 2 games against Netherlands and Cyprus, also relying on goal difference. So that's very tricky. Obviously, you expect them to beat Cyprus. But that's where you'd be wanting to get your goal difference up as well. France achieved this, a 2-0 win in Paris against the Netherlands, and then a 4-0 win against Cyprus in December. But they're very much relieved and battle ready for the World Cup. You know, they've come through a difficult group. They presumably know their quality, and well, they're here now. You know.
I think as well with that group, that's kind of says like why the scheduling was so weird. I'm not sure, because if Ireland have still got, if they've done all their games basically,
France still have 2,
and they still got 2, and one of them's against the worst side in the group. I know it doesn't really matter when you're putting them together, but
but Cyprus had nothing to play for as well, obviously by that point. So they could have just been like, I prefer France to Cyprus.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's kind of where they are. They have a bit of a hot and cold. A few warm-up games which don't really go their way. I don't think they win any of their 3 kind of warm-up games in the months leading up to the World Cup. But by the time they get here, you feel like, this is a real great, one of the first great France teams.
Yeah, and no real injury issues. So let's get into the game. England versus France, Wednesday, the 16th of June, 1982, 5:15 p.m. Group 4 of the World Cup, 1982, at Estadio San Mamés.
San Mamés. In Bilbao. Lovely stuff. Yeah, I've always wanted to go to San Mamés. I'm got quite an affiliation for Athletic Bilbao, and I know this stadium's kind of no longer there anymore. The new one's been built, but a place I've always wanted to go on a bit of a football pilgrimage.
I'll get a pronunciation of something right someday.
It just changes quite a lot in terms of that one, because I don't know if it's a certain way that it's spelt in Spanish that looks like it should be an R and an N or an M. It's slightly confusing. I'll give you that. I'll probably say it different 3 times if it comes up again as well. So
you're just trying to make me feel better. We've got the little World Cup logo, which is quite funky.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple around this time that all kind of had the same logo. Like it's just a different name with the colours of the flag that are on the football, the swoosh of the football that comes off. But it looks nice, doesn't it?
Yeah. Kind of looks like the football is wearing a cape.
Yeah, a little bit. A little cape of the flag.
Yeah, and just flying off. World Cup in Spain.
That sounds great, doesn't it?
Is this the last time we would have had a World Cup in Spain?
Maybe any tournament in Spain. I don't know if there was a Euros a little while ago. I don't think there has been. It just seems
Is it just a bit too obvious?
Maybe. But it's a bit like, why hasn't there been a tournament in England really as well? I mean, the infrastructure's there, the stadiums are there, there's a big appetite for it all as well. Is it just because it's maybe too hot in these kind of countries this time of the year in June, July? I've been to a festival in Spain in July and it was unacceptably hot.
Maybe. Let's get to the England lineup then.
Yeah.
I'll take this one if you don't mind. My confidence has been knocked by mispronouncing the stadium.
Yeah.
And Ron Greenwood. Okay. England's lineup. Peter Shilton in goal, obviously. Mick Mills, the captain, at right back, with Terry Butcher and Phil Thompson in the centre of defence, and Kenny Sampson at left back. Steve Coppell's on the right wing, and Graham Ricks is on the left wing, with Ray Wilkins and Bryan Robson in the middle. Up front, we have Trevor Francis and Paul Mariner. On the bench, we have Ray Clements, Glenn Hoddle, Phil Neal, Peter Wyve, and Tony Woodcock. Ooh, some good names there. I'm excited to see Bryan Robson. Excited to see Terry Butcher.
I know, yeah. Robson was a big reason I wanted to, because I've just never watched a full Bryan Robson game either. And I was just like, well, let's see if he does something in this one then.
Glenn Hoddle on the bench. I would have thought that he would be playing. Is he a bit too young here? Or?
I'm not really sure. I think Glenn Hoddle was kind of one of those early players of where do you actually play him for England? Because if you look at Ray Wilkins and Bryan Robson, then maybe they complement each other quite well. You had Ray Wilkins, who was seen as a bit of a water carrier, and then Robson, an all-action midfielder. Glenn Hoddle's in there somewhere, a creative player in the middle. Do you need to take one of them out? I mean, you maybe take Robson out, but he's the emerging player here and maybe a bit older than Hoddle as well. And if you're sticking him out wide, then are you just doing that thing that a load of England teams do where you just go, well, fit all your best players in there somewhere? At least there's a system here, you'd think.
Yeah, or you could take the Sven approach and get rid of Ray Wilkins and put Glenn Hoddle in. So it's
I thought you were going to say and put Ledley King in there.
put Ledley King in. Well, yeah, but actually more sensible than Sven. He's got two amazing players, but I know Bryan Robson and Glenn Hoddle aren't like directly comparable to Lampard and Gerrard, but he's gone with one or the other and put somebody who can do the dirty work next to them.
I think so, yeah. At least it balances out a little bit, which I think does come up in the game quite well. As I say, Greenwood had ideally wanted to use his preferred team who won in Budapest in qualifying, but only 5 of the players actually keep their place for now. So a bit of rotation, maybe some injury worries along the way too, and maybe just a bit of a change too.
Trevor Francis and Paul Mariner up front. Any thoughts on that pairing?
Well, Paul Mariner, who had kept his place in that game, had scored in 4 successive internationals in the build-up. So a really important player for England around this time. I didn't really know much about him, and I knew the name, but he's an important player. Scored the only goal in the home win against Hungary as well. So yeah, be interesting to see what he does.
Who would have been banging the goals in for Villa? Because obviously they're winning the Champions League. You're presuming that they're going to have an English player.
Yeah, it was Peter With, so he's on the bench at the moment as well. It was one of those, well, do you pick him? Do you pick the Mariner who's in form? Or, you've got Trevor Francis as well, who'd been at Forest, who I think he was the first ever £1 million player as well, so big reputation.
Yeah. So quite a young team overall. I think it looks strong, and the picture that we're looking at, this team, to describe it, compared to the 70s bunch who played Poland, who looked like they'd just been on the piss for like a week. These look like proper athletes.
Yeah, even though there would have still been a big drinking culture, you can at least tell these apart. They've all not got just the same haircut, the same body type, all that kind of stuff too. But
Captain Mick Mills.
Yeah, Mick Mills looks like your man David Haig from the Thin Blue Line. I kind of picked out.
Stop fanning about.
I absolutely love that actor as well. I think you've put as well, he's a Steve Fleming from the thick of it as well, isn't he?
2 absolutely genius comic performances, really.
Yeah, I've seen him on stage as well, in a play too, and he was fantastic in that as well. It was The Madness of King George, I think it was. George III played, and he was brilliant in that. But I couldn't stop going, it's the bloke at the Thin Blue Line.
Yeah. Did he have the mustache?
He did not have the mustache. No. Whenever you see pictures of him without it, I'm always just like, this doesn't look right. Something's missing here. Something's wrong.
So I guess that's our summary. Peter Shilton, up and down. Mick Mills looks like the guy from the thick of it. Ledley King's playing in midfield.
Keegan's not there.
And Keegan's not there. France. Over to you, Nick.
So France had Jean-Luc Ettori in goal, Battisson at right back, Trésor and Lopez in centre of defence, Bossis at left back. You had René Girard, Jean-Francois Larios, who had the awful back pass, obviously, in qualifying, Alain Giresse, and one Michel Platini as captain.
Ooh.
And you had Dominique Rocheteau and Gerard Soler up front as well. There was a bit of a rotation every now and then in the France team of who would play up front, but on the bench for them as well is Bartelli, Jean Vion, Jean Tigana, Alain Poirot, and Didier Six.
Brilliant. I'm going to France at the end of August, and when I booked the holiday, I was like, I'm going to learn some French, and now
it started well.
It's not happening. I've lost state of just saying some names that I've already heard people say.
You just say, old English people go, oh, Platini.
Yeah.
You just say French footballers' names.
Well, he's the standout name for me on there. I'm not too familiar with many of the others, but he's obviously recognised as one of the great players.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Michel Platini, France here, alongside Diego Maradona, they kind of had the world's brightest footballers who are emerging. Platini would go on to become one of, if not France's greatest player ever, which we'll kind of touch on a little later too. But they'd, France rotate strikers, as I say, with Rocheteau and Soler starting today. Six and Bruno Bellon also contributing goals in the qualifying process. You also had Trésor, who's a really important player in France's defence. But when talking about France in the 80s, the main talking point is the famous Carré Magique, which is known as the Magic Square.
Okay.
Are you familiar with said Magic Square?
No, I'm not. Can I shock you? I'm not.
So this consisted of their 4 midfielders of Jean Tigana, Luis Fernandez, Alain Giresse, and Michel Platini. And we get Tigana on the bench today, and Luis Fernandez, who doesn't make his debut until a couple of months after the tournament, actually. But so right now they've not quite got the magic square in place yet, but it's the start of one at least.
Uh, how do they play in a square?
So essentially, you have like two midfielders sitting and another two going forward. So you'd have the shape of a square amongst those, all kind of connected. Imagine like a football manager or something.
Yeah.
Like the players that have lines that are they familiar with playing with each other, so they all kind of know their jobs really.
I was just thinking, Christ, if they're all playing in like a square, you're leaving it's like four people not doing the job of one midfielder. And this is supposed to be good.
Yeah, and this is the French team, the iconic French team, really.
Yeah. Obviously, Platini up front, alongside Diego Maradona as one of the brightest stars in world football at that moment. Well, certainly an emerging star.
Yeah, I think at this World Cup as well, Maradona plays for Argentina at a tournament for the first time as well, and he's kind of kicked around in I think it's the Italy game in the second group stage, where he gets kind of kicked around a bit, and he kind of vows to come back stronger at the next World Cup, and he surely does that.
Speaking of strong, England's red kit is a thing of beauty, in my opinion. I would say it's the best kit we've so far. I might do a little poll on the socials as to what people think is the best kit we've covered so far. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful, really. I don't know if it's just that 80s aesthetic that I really like about it, but there's something about that. I mean, I don't know what it looked like in real life. I mean, the original kit, I think, would look beautiful. One of the kind of remakes that you get at the shops these days, unsure how much it looks, but I think I've got the home version of this kit, actually, which is very similar, just white instead of the red, but no.
I've got that as from a remake.
Yeah, same here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to get actual ones of those, unfortunately, but I think it's really nice, I agree.
I don't actually have that top anymore. Matty, if you're listening, give me my top back.
Is that a case of just lending an England top to a mate?
Yeah, but
I ain't got one.
We're all going out for a game, and he's coming with like the world's worst looking one, and I'm just like, mate, just put this on, or maybe even wearing a Wolves top.
Yeah. I just thought when people have got like a polo shirt with just England Admiral written on it. I know because I've got one of those, but
very Mike Bassett.
Yeah, and a great France kit as well. I think that looks really, really nice too.
You hardly see France in anything less than top notch gear.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they've always got some good looks. I got a France top a couple of tournaments ago as well, and one of the older ones. I think it may have been a France '98 one with kind of Zidane on the back, and yeah, beautiful look.
No national anthems. We're straight into the action. Right, the stream we watched, the game had already kicked off, right?
And there was only a couple of seconds in it, wasn't there? Yeah. It was just like, oh, this has happened. Shit, rewind it. Oh, I can't. It's almost like, oh, have they missed the start of this?
Well, we've barely kicked off and we've got a goal.
France have 6 players who experienced the special tensions of this level of competition 4 years ago in Argentina. Of course, for all the England players, the final stages representing a new challenge. And a goal! Robson! In under 30 seconds from Terry Butcher's flick. Butcher flicking on, and the French had left Robson entirely. He stretched and he beat Etheridge, and England are underway.
So had they missed the start, or is it a really early goal? Have you dug around afterwards?
Just a really, really early goal. I mean, what a start. Yeah, let's just talk about it. England kick off and play the ball down the right-hand channel to Steve Coppell, who wins a throw. Coppell himself, the winger, takes it, and it's like a long throw into the area, and France just can't clear it. It's flicked on, and Bryan Robson is just in yards of space, isn't he? And yeah, just finds the ball and puts it past Toure. England lead.
You can't miss that situation. But how did that defender let Robson get away from him to make that space?
What defender? I mean, there's just not even like someone you can see on the camera angle we've got of him actually being like closed down by anybody. It's just like a real scramble on the left-hand side of France's area, and Robson's on his own.
Well, after so long away from the tournament, England have taken, 20 seconds to score a goal?
It's something like that, isn't it? Yeah.
Amazing. For me, there was kind of shades of many future England moments here. I was happy that we scored watching this, and I thought, great, England are leading after less than a minute or however long. A very early goal against top-class opposition. But then I thought, we do kind of score too early sometimes, quite a lot when it really matters, and it never ends that well.
Notorious for poking the bear, aren't they, England? But could you imagine like watching the World Cup? You've not probably in your lifetime, you've never seen England at a World Cup, and you're just like, what is this? This what it's like?
Any more observations on the goal?
Yeah, England keen early on to get players in the box. The player who actually flicks it on for Robson is Terry Butcher, and he's playing at centre back. And like immediately from the kickoff, there's a long throw that comes in, and Butcher heads on. You just think, where's this come from? Is this a tactic straight away of just get people in the box, even if you're a centre half?
Well, we had to watch this game with foreign commentary,
as you'll put it. Okay,
French commentary, and we get a lovely little bit of voila.
Oh, I do love the French commentary in this because obviously neither of us can speak French, but you just get words like that just get put into there every way. The way he says it in this is like it's like a character in The Simpsons unveiling a cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just beautiful.
I'm picturing the one which they tried to kill Homer with, where they just put it full of buttercream and everything, like when he's a food critic.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're on about. It's just bulging,
Yeah,
with like butter.
Actually, the quickest World Cup goal ever. That was. At the time.
Yeah, incredible, isn't it? And you have to assume France are all over the place because it's just too early and no one's picking at Robson. And yeah,
I feel like we're a bit all over the place.
I just think that's just
mental.
Thrown us off and made it immediately. We've got to talk about a goal, and it doesn't feel like it now feels like France kick off. Now it started. Right, everybody, calm down. Let's try and do this from the start again.
Yeah, England obviously they're quite a focused bunch. I mean, Robson's celebration seemed very calm and focused, so they're not letting everything carry itself away from them. They're not getting carried away with everything. They're mainly focused on not letting Platini do his business.
Yeah, straight away, tackles are just flying in on him from Wilkins and Robson. Neither of them happy to shirk a tackle. And it's the only way they can keep him at bay, really. I think for a lot of the game, they do quite a good job, actually, of keeping him at arm's length away from the goal and just shimmying him out of position at times, too.
Yeah, quite a bit of violence as well. I think the tackles are a bit rough. You made a comment here on England's squad numbers, because obviously we're watching this game in French commentary, as we just said, and it's hard to pick who's who because the visual quality was awful as well.
England's manager in an utter disregard for the beauty of what a squad number is in my eyes. I'm quite specific on that. So Steve Coppell, who's the right winger, he's number 5. Shilton, who's the starting goalkeeper, 22. Okay, we talked about Ray Clements being number 1 maybe, and you can understand that. But the back 4 consists of 12, 17 and 18, and then Butcher at 4.
Wild.
I mean, at this time, you didn't have assigned squad numbers at club football, but there seems to be no reason for any of these numbers. I think Trevor Brookins like 3 or something. And I don't think he was a defender particularly.
I know the reason why.
Okay.
I thought the same as you, where I happened to stumble upon Ron Greenwood's selection logic, which is that he assigned numbers to his squad according to the alphabetical order of their surnames, except for Kevin Keegan and the goalkeepers.
I mean, well, you've not done it by that order then, have you? So it's like, well, stick to your own plan here. I'm going to do it for everyone, all you unimportant robots that I'm just putting in this order, apart from Keggy and apart from the goalkeepers, because that'd be weird.
And whoever's like number 14 or whatever Keegan should have been, it's like, well, I want to be 14. It's like, no.
I know.
I agree with you, though. I think it's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. I kind of hear people say that on their Football Manager says they just press random when they get new players, and I think that's one of the best bits of Football Manager, going, right, who are you? You're a right back. You're a forward. Right, you've got this number. Oh, that person's got that number which you like. Well, this is yours. When they leave, maybe you'll have it. And
and replacing. But I'm the same. I'm not sure you can do that on the new FIFA, or maybe it's a glitch on my team. And I'm really into my career mode at the moment, but I can't change anything. My star striker is number 16.
I mean, it's not at least it's not number 3.
I spent 50 mil on a centre back who had a couple of rough starts to his game, a couple of rough games to start his career.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of dropping him. And the only way I could find a way to give him a game is he ended up actually playing at right back, but he was number 2.
Well,
so he's kind of made that his position his own now as well. Not just because of the number.
But you've also got the backwards. You see someone like Winston Bahade for Chelsea, who was like, well, I'm number 7. I was like, well, you're a backup centre back. Why are you number 7? Like, why are you giving into these mad demands?
Do you think it's all changing now? I mean, we may have spoke about this before, but the likes of Declan Rice and Phil Foden like to almost keep their academy numbers, don't they? I mean, I think Foden's still number 45, and I think Rice is like 50 or
41, I think Rice is. I think that is nice if you want to keep that. And I guess it's, unfortunately, when you kind of look at it a bit more deeper, it's probably a brand, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you had Michael Jordan, who was like, well, I'll be number 23, brand 23, and Beckham had made it 7. Then he went to, I think was he 23 or 32?
23.
23, and then he went to Milan, and 23 was already taken, so he was like, well, I'll be 32.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right.
Really stretching it there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the branding stuff, yeah, not great, but you do. I mean, didn't Tom Cleverley have his own like brand? It was like TC23. I know. This is the side of it, isn't it?
AM9 Marshall, and then I think Zlatan had that shirt from him.
Yeah, he took that, didn't he?
But
I get like the like of shirt numbers. I mean, again, we've just declared ourselves shirt pervert numbers, there, haven't we? But I don't. Yeah, some of it I'm not that into, especially like I say when you've got someone who's like, I think the Argentina goalkeeper for around these tournaments was number 3.
Yeah,
and that just makes my head all hot thinking about it. That does.
Oh, there was another one. One more point on that is I don't think they can build a brand around like 8 or 6 or something like that. So you may as well have one where you go, why is he playing in number 72 or something like that?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like those other ones are known. Like that 2 is the right back.
Well, wasn't it Zamorano who was at Inter Milan, and Ronaldo was there, and he had 1 and 8, and he had a little plus sign.
Yeah,
I mean that is beautifully petty.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's the one that sticks out in my head. Anyway, let's get back to the game. Yeah. England, kind of. Yeah, I mean, it's a good start for them. Obviously, they're already 1-0 up, and they're not letting Platini get on the ball. We've established that. But what do you make? They're kind of good on the ball and aggressive early on, but France do look good as well.
They look good and interesting, but England have they're keeping them at arm's length for a lot of this opening period for like the first 20 minutes or so. They do really well. Just after France nearly break, and some fine play around the box, and it's just the last pass is just a bit too hard for the oncoming Platini, and Shilton just collects it.
Yeah, and England are nearly 2-0 up after 5 minutes. Ray Wilkins' corner is missed by the keeper, but it's also missed by the striker behind him, whoever that is, I couldn't figure out, and France survive. Just to break off on a tangent again, France, I think 3 times I can think of that we've played them in a tournament opener, 2004, this, and 2012.
Yeah, and the ones you've just mentioned, 2004 was in the Euros. I think that was the late Zidane show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And 2012 was, I think it was a 1-1 in an opener. I think maybe Jolyon Lescott even scored for England. So there's that.
You got it absolutely right. Roy Hodgson's first game in charge, I think that was, because didn't he come in to save the tournament?
Yeah, I think he may have had a couple of friendlies, but that's his first competitive game in charge, wasn't it? An up and down tournament for England, as they usually are, but we'll get to that one day, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, let's skip a little bit forward. Platini doing his stuff. He's getting dragged down. He's getting tackled. He's getting this and that. 14 minutes in, Rick's down the line for Francis, who beats his man, closes in on goal from a tight angle, but hits the side netting. England's probably best chance. Yeah,
best chance it wasn't a goal, definitely. And England down the wings in this game are really, really impressive. It's Steve Coppell is relentless down there. Ricks does quite well. You see the strikers kind of drifting wide for this, and then Francis, almost in on goal and just shoots wide.
Yeah, there's a bit more wing danger just around the 15-minute mark, which results in a goal line clearance needing.
Yeah, Coppell, as I just mentioned, finding some joy down the right, textbook of an old school winger. Just get the ball, head down, run past your marker, get the ball in. Similar to Ricks, who creates an England chance when he beats his man, cross into the box. Mariner heads it back towards goal, and Robson's in the box again, winning the header with the goalkeeper as he comes out. Looks like he's gone in, but I wasn't sure if it had gone wide. Someone had knocked it off the line. What did you think?
I think it looked like it was going wide, and he just made sure with a kind of one of those where you almost like a bicycle kick. But you're not doing the full flip because obviously he doesn't want to kick it back out. Back towards England's players. Just get rid of it for a corner.
I think I can't tell who the player is in our screenshot, but there's a player that looks like he's celebrating on the right hand side as well. It's just like it's in. Oh, I guess not. No.
Yeah, so it's all happening on the wings for England. Around 20 minutes in, we see Platini start to purr. He plays a nice little 1-2 and looks to make some space for himself, but drags it wide. Yeah, that's as close as France have come, really.
Yeah, France not really causing England many problems at this point.
And Soler onside against Butcher. And magnificently finished. Gerard Soler in the 25th minute. England caught without cover at the back. Soler finishing well. England may well claim offside.
Not.
Oh, bugger. Spoke too soon. France score from out of Le Bleu. Do you see what I did there?
I love that. Out of Le Bleu.
I just was very proud of myself the other night when I came up with that, and I've telegraphed it now. So there we go. Yeah, England lose the ball high up the pitch, and France play a long pass just to the right, just from the right of the centre circle to Soler high up the pitch. Only has Butcher, I think it is, around him. He runs through and takes a shot outside and it's quite early to take the shot as well. From where it's just maybe outside, just inside of the area, but takes it with his left foot, and it pretty much puts it in the only place Shilton couldn't get there in time.
It really reminded me of another goal, but I can't think of what it is, and I'm thinking maybe like a Michael Owen kind of finish. It's a really good finish.
It feels like maybe an early one where he's racing away, and you think that's the only place you can put that, and he just puts his whole foot through it, doesn't he? It's a really, really nice finish from Soler, and
as you say, it's a bit early to have a shot. It kind of catches Shilton off guard. I mean, Shilton didn't really have Leclerc.
There you go. You've had yours now. I've had mine. Lovely. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have more, mate. I'll have more.
Well, yeah, when England lose the ball so out the pitch, France play it forward so quickly out of defence, and England's defence are way, way, way too high. I mean, in like the stills we've got, I think there's only one England player there, and you think, well, where's everybody else to not maybe playing him offside? Why is the one player gone with him? Yeah, which is a big problem. But it is a good run from Soler, really, really good finish. As they taken early.
Both teams are good, but you could argue both goals have been down to a bit of defensive lapses in concentration.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And as soon as France score, they immediately look more dangerous. I mean, I think the next shot we see, and there's a lot of kind of quick cuts from the teams are celebrating. Oh, something's happened again here. So yeah, France are looking more dangerous. Play some passes around England's midfield and defence.
We're learning so much about England doing this podcast, and I think one thing to note is they don't handle a goal going in well. Even if sometimes England nearly score from conceding, they'll just go and nearly score again. But either way, they can't stay calm, can they? They either concede a second or nearly score, another one for themselves, which is fine, but it's a bit chaotic.
It's conceding goals at bad times. I think that's a real big hallmark for England. Maybe one day we'll put together right. What does your archetypal England game look like? And I think it will be a goal conceded from like the 40th minute around about that time after you've taken the lead.
Yeah, early goal in the first 10.
Yeah,
conceding
lift off for England. Yeah. That's what you get.
Conceding an equaliser around this time. Well, maybe this one was a little bit early. 25 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was about 25, wasn't it? So yeah, but straight away there, France are looking better, and the momentum's kind of gone with England at this point. It's quite a cagey game. Both teams, like you say, caught out sleeping when they do that. But Big Phil Thompson comes up and has a strike out of nowhere, which I quite enjoyed.
Cheeky git. Yeah, it looks boiling out there. The players look like they're all ready to go into half time. Sort of 1-1.
Yeah, 1-1, and even the text comes up to tell you the score every now and then. Even like the text looks hot. It's in bright yellow with like a red line around it, like on there. It just looks like if you touch it, you just scald yourself, wouldn't you? It's like a brand.
Yeah. Well, let's get in for a quick little break. It's half time, eh? Not much else happens between then and the end of the first half, so it's 1-1. Thoughts?
Yeah, great start for England, as we say, and looking dangerous until France got their goal, and level pegging going in.
Yeah. And not much from me to add other than, as we said, it's very much typical England. They can't take a lead with them to half time in a big game.
No, not at all. And but there were still signs. I think England out of the two sides probably looked better. They've definitely got a better plan in terms of going past the French fullbacks, and France, their chances kind of like their one chance really came from something that they hadn't done. It was more the slow build-up play for France, but England's wing play really hurting them.
Yeah. you want to move on into the second half?
Yeah, let's do so. So the half starts with Platini's free kick going wide. He kind of strides away with his shirt untucked, like he's just been disturbed by a house alarm, doesn't he?
Wow. Yeah, he does. He actually does. He looks like
You can barely see his shorts.
No, well,
it's
the short shorts as well, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. It's a look for Platini, isn't it? Maybe the most dishevelled we've seen him. But,
Yeah, I think it's cool dishevelled though.
yeah, definitely. It's like, oh, I don't care. It's
Very
fine.
French.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's boiling out here.
And yeah, we get Ray Wilkins with a rare jaunt. Has a shot saved. The ball hits Ettore and it just like flies away as well. It doesn't look like it should go that area, but it was weird seeing Ray Wilkins playing with hair. I found, because I've only ever really seen him as like a pundit and a coach in that. It was really weird seeing him. Oh, there he is.
I thought about that, but I'm not sure it's a great point, and I'm trying to think of the words to, because you never see someone with hair and then be like, oh, I don't know. No, maybe it's the other way around. You never see someone bald and go, oh, they look weird without hair. No. Oh, fuck this. I'm going to have to. Well, you made a silly point, Nick. I'm going to have to chop that.
I made a silly point of Ray Wilkins looks weird when he's younger with hair.
He does. He does look weird when
it's slightly unsettling, isn't it, with that? But yeah, it's been fun listening to the game in French when you realise that so much of TV commentary is just saying players' names, isn't it? And even if one of the commentators, when he's not saying anything, is just going, just under his breath. It is very intense the way in the background he's just doing this.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the commentary. My partner was her ears pricked up when I said, "Oh, it's French commentary. I'm watching England versus France." She's a bit of a francophile, and she was like, "Yeah, I don't really." She was trying to make out what the commentator was saying. She's like, "I don't really understand much of it." And I was like, "They're mainly just saying players' names. Like, I don't think like Coppell is a word."
Yeah, and it's full names as well, isn't it? It's never just like it's Steve Coppell. Like a lot of the time, and the French names, obviously they'll know them better, so they'll do that in full.
And football terms, you don't really say much other than
that's true. Actually, I hadn't thought about that.
Like a functioning commentator won't really say much other than names, pass, goal. You know, some like we've seen ones who are prone to the odd flight of poetic prose.
I think as well, I guess commentary's changed these days, haven't they? I mean, you imagine a lot of commentators are just armed with everything they need to say in a game, almost like they've got their own notes ready. I always remember the thing that sticks in my throat. I remember when England beat Denmark at the Euros, and I think it was Sam Matterface. He just went on for so long about, oh, this is England's day, and he clearly just got this script in front of him that he just spent hours working on. You know what? I don't want to hear that. Like England was kind of celebrating getting through that game. And you know what? I just wanted to listen to the crowd and the players and just be quiet for a moment. And I think that's probably lost in a lot of commentary these days because there's always a need to keep people's attention, especially if they're watching it on the TV.
Yeah, fill that space and just throw so many one-liners. One of them's going to stick.
Yeah, and I guess it's the want to be part of the moment. Like you look at again big England moments of the last couple of years. I couldn't tell you anything that a commentator said, probably because they've got it rehearsed. I mean, Tilsley maybe there's a couple we've done recently of I think the Croatia game we did, and maybe Tilsley's got a couple of nice lines in there, but it's nothing memorable.
No.
And I guess he doesn't get to do a lot of the bigger games these days. It is your Matterface, and I don't even know who does it for BBC, but Jermaine Genius is on the co-coms. I always just mute that.
And I think we're just desensitized to it all anyway, really. Like you say, like Tilsley could come out with a classic, but by the time it's been rammed down your throat on social media, and then a year after, like literally 1 year after, the guy and throw back to this iconic moment.
Yeah.
And then 2 years after, just 2 years since this iconic moment, anytime those two teams play again, flash back to this iconic moment.
I think I don't mind it when it's some of the older England ones, but the recent ones, maybe they've just not seeped into the consciousness as much.
No.
But even like maybe a big like the Colombia game, couldn't tell you what that commentary was.
I was livid.
Well, yeah, I think I was stood on a table in a pub at that point when it went in. But
I was a bit livid. Actually, I wasn't that livid. I was in a cinema.
Oh yeah, it's quite good watching football in a cinema.
I loved it. Yeah.
I watched the Algeria game in a cinema, and it kicked off like not like properly, but like people were just so angry because it was like a Saturday night, I want to say as well.
Yeah.
So people were like, "Oh, we'll go to the cinema to watch it. It's going to be really fun watching England in the World Cup," and it was just the most boring match you could have ever seen.
I remember watching Argentina versus France at the 2018 World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
in the cinema, and it was an amazing game. And for one moment, I don't know why, I just thought I don't want to look at this massive screen, and just looked like slightly down for a second, and I missed Pavard's goal, which won goal of the tournament.
Oh my
I was
God.
like, I managed to miss goal of the tournament, even with like a 15-foot screen in front of me, like 10 times the size of me.
I love
10
it.
times, I'm not 1.5 foot, but you know, that's it's not his wrist maths, is it?
No, not at all. We'll get back to England. And
We'll get back to
and the
England.
France game. Yeah, I think England are a really hard-working side in this game. And I don't know, maybe is this where the stereotypical an English side, like their style is coined from?
I don't know whether it's where it's coined from, but they're definitely representative of that phrase, the stereotypical English side. It's all wing work, getting the ball in the mixer, hard work,
big tackles, fouls, kind of thing. It never feels malicious quite yet. I think as we kind of go on into the 80s, there is a period in club football where it is just filthy football. But I don't think you get this from this game whatsoever. Any kind of foul England do commit, it just feels like, well, I'll just foul you because I had to bring you down. Basically, it doesn't feel nasty.
Do you think England kind of stick with this, trying to replicate this type of side until like 2014, 2016, maybe?
Maybe. I think you had more rigid formations, didn't you? So England, pretty much. I think they played a back three in Italian 90, and England do play back threes as you go along. But it's still the big thing of, again, with Taylor, it was always get the ball into the box. You know, the opportunity of maximum, whatever he used to kind of say. You had Venables, who was a bit more free-flowing, Hoddle as well, and Keegan. I mean, it was just a bin fire at times, some of those tactics. But you still had, like, because you had to fit into a formation and but also get the best players on there, like you look at a Sven or a McLaren, they kind of stuck to it. But at least these days, England do seem a bit more flexible and have a couple of more plans.
Oh, they really do. But back to this game, again, we keep getting sidetracked. There's a big chance for England. Coppell, who has been great on the right-hand side, obviously, as we've touched on. He wins a throw-in. Takes it quickly to what looks like Robson. We think.
Yeah, that's all I can say is I think it's Robson.
Yeah, he's in a lot of space in the box, really, considering. But he tees it up for Trevor Francis, who's running onto the ball. He shoots, but it's saved by Ettori for a corner.
Yeah. This is one of the few bits of French commentary we are going to drop in here because it's a lot of fun.
Wilkins, Coppell, et la balle en touche pour les Anglais.
Oh là là, quelle faute de marquage, mais...
Oui. Oh là là!
Est-ce possible à ce niveau-là de faire des...
Oh, un tir de Francis en corner, car la balle a été touchée.
Ooh la la!
It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, something weird straight away. The corner takes absolutely ages to come in. I think they only got one ball. This is a World Cup game, and it's like, no, just one ball. That's fine. I mean, what if it pops?
Spanish economy, mate, on its knees.
There was a little bit as well where, again, I think it was Shilton. I think he was right. We're just waiting for the fans to just throw the ball back for a little period in the first half too. I just found that wild.
Well, our conversation's been quite distracted from the game. I think partly because lack of commentators to take the piss out of.
Very true, yeah.
And mainly just because, I mean, lest we forget the score is 1-1 at this point, and England and France have been pretty equal. I think both teams would probably take a draw.
It's one of those where you say it's an opening World Cup game. Neither team, want to lose it. Maybe you don't want to risk it, but England looking for a little bit of inspiration. I think the forwards they've worked hard, but I think it's been a bit of a struggle to create something. I think the midfielders have played well, but maybe you really would be looking for Mighty Mouse Kevin Keegan to come on.
Yeah.
And maybe you think Glenn Hoddle would be an option, but again, where are you going to play him? Robson and Wilkins have both played well. What are you going to do? There's nothing's particularly going on. You can't see where a goal's going to come from.
Wait a minute.
And another buzz of anticipation with a score flash at Algeria leading West Germany 2-1. And Robson makes it 2-1 here. Bryan Robson again arrives from midfield. The goalkeeper might force his advance off his line.
Hey, come on. 2-1 England.
Yeah, much like the French equaliser in a dull period of the game, England go ahead again.
Oh, I love this. Such a great header. This is Cristiano Ronaldo-esque leap.
Oh, definitely. I mean, just to tell you what the goal's like, Coppell again runs with the ball, knocks it out wide to Trevor Francis. Francis crosses into the area and arriving like a permed steam train is Bryan Robson. His jump to get there before the onrushing Ettore is great and timed to perfection. It reminds me a little bit of Maradona's handball in '86.
Yeah, yeah.
It's quite he gets there and times it perfectly just before that, and he almost tackles it in with his head, doesn't he, Robson?
Yeah, he's out of nowhere. Great leap. Absolute captain's goal.
And the keeper, when you see it, he's nowhere near it. Like you think, well, it's not like it's an error. Just Robson has just read the flight of the ball a lot better than him.
Yeah. Again, with the almost a little bit muted but passionate celebration, he seems focused, like a Harry Kane type,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
he's not wacky.
Yeah, he's not got a pre-planned celebration, even though Harry Kane's got a pre-planned
Yeah.
celebration. But Robson's wearing a red and white wristband, which goes really, really nicely with the kit, and I thought that was really cool, actually.
Let's talk about Robson, because a lot of focus would have been on him as a great young midfielder, as we've spoken about, and he started the World Cup with 2 goals in the opening game.
I mean, that's just a dream, isn't it? I mean, he would have grown up seeing England win the World Cup, maybe. I think, he would have been younger. Yeah, he definitely would have seen that. And you think he'd go on and dream of playing in a World Cup game. I mean, get 2 goals against France in the opening game. It's just a dream. I think Robson's 25 here, coming into the ascendancy as not only one of the best midfielders in England, but soon to be in the world as well.
Yeah. So he's at United at this point.
Yeah, he moved to Man United. The season just finished for a then British record transfer, 1.75 million from West Brom.
Who he'd obviously returned to as a manager.
He did, yeah, of course.
The Great Escape.
Yeah, one of the great escapes ever, isn't it? I think
it was the first one where they were bottom at Christmas Day.
That was it, yeah.
And so obviously the do you know what's his name? Lee Hughes.
Yes, for West Brom.
Yeah, he's just retired like this week.
What?
Yeah, he's been playing. I think he's like 45 odd, and he's been playing like obviously at a really low level, but still sort of professionally.
That's very strange, isn't it?
I know, yeah.
With the West Brom connection as well, I think you had Atkinson had moved to Man United and took Robson, and I think Remy Moses may have played at Albion as well. But Robson had done his best in a kind of title challenging position for Man United, but they kind of faded away into 3rd place.
Well, Bryan Robson looked great in this game. That goal I really enjoyed that goal.
Yeah.
I bet England fans are excited. A few changes are made for France. Didier 6.
Didier 6, yeah. I'm going with that, yeah.
And Jean Tigana on for Larios and Rocheteau.
Yeah. As you said, Jean Tigana as in Fulham fame, as kind of our younger listeners will know him from. Well, younger, probably not younger anymore. Just
Younger?
Our age listeners will know he was Fulham manager.
I don't think younger listeners. Oh yeah, yeah. So I put of Fulham fame. I can't even really remember his stint, but I just felt like he was quite a big deal at Fulham. Do you remember?
I think he was the man who got them promoted first time round under Al Fayed, and then he was in the league where they signed Sahar and Van der Sar and all those kind of players as well. So he done well at Fulham. He had a lot of money to spend, but to get them back into the Premier League and kind of where they've been, not ever since, but always around that area, you'd always expect Fulham to either be fighting off relegation or maybe even getting promoted. As they, as time of recording yesterday, they were promoted, weren't they?
Big old Mitrovic.
Yeah, 40 goals in a championship season. I mean, why would he even bother going up to the Premier League? I'll stay here. This is great.
I bet he gets none.
Yeah, well, maybe. I think.
None is ridiculous.
None is quite mad. Maybe he'll get none if he stays in the championship, but I don't know. Maybe Silver will be able to get a bit of a tune out of him.
Yeah. Well, we got 15 minutes to go, and yeah. Again, it's more of the same, really. A bit of English roughness.
Yeah, ball played down the side to Platini, and he's in a race with Butcher, who cynically brings him down just outside the England area. It's a clear foul, and these days probably a red card as well. I'd say he's in on goal.
Yeah, I mean Platini had obviously very high hopes, and early on it looked like he's going to be great. He's not exactly controlled the game, especially if you compare him to Bryan Robson.
No, I think he's looked good without being really, really impressive. Robson's obviously had the big moments, and I think he's looked very good as well. But Platini and the team not quite clicking at this point. Like they'd had a bit of trouble in, obviously qualifying was a big task. The warm-up games hadn't been great either. They're not quite clicking. They're not awful, but it's a bit worrying at this point as well. But you look at Platini, and he doesn't have a great game here, but mostly because England are all over him. And in the following tournament, Platini was in the following years, Platini was a top scorer in Serie A for 3 consecutive seasons from 83 to 85, and culminating helping them win the European Cup in 85.
That's not bad going, is he?
Yeah, Capo Cagnoneri for 3 seasons in that Italy kind of period as well, where it's just impossible to score goals.
Yeah, and obviously his career with France. I don't think we'll really touch on him against England again.
I don't think so. No, maybe they have friendlies or anything, but I don't think England play them in a tournament again. And this is kind of a reason I wanted to just see, what was this France side like and what was he like. I mean, at the next tournament, France go to the European Championships. They win it, and he scores 9 goals in the tournament and become the top scorer in the competition's history just by playing in that one tournament.
Wow, Christ! So is that a golden boot that's been beaten? Do you know?
I don't think. No, well, it mustn't be. No, I don't think in a Euros.
No one's got more than 9 goals in the tournament.
Not in a championship tournament, no. But it's no longer the record though. Can you name the person who took 4 tournaments to break it?
Oh, so this is overall.
He was the top scorer, and he only ever played in that one tournament. So
and it's taken somebody 4 tournaments to do it.
Yeah, someone's done it, but it's taken them 4.
My mind goes to Harry Kane, but he's only had 2 big tournaments, I think.
And this is a Euro, so this is not even a World Cup either.
Of course, yeah. 4 Euros. Zidane?
No.
I'll have 2 more guesses. I'll try.
Okay.
I like a quiz, but I don't think I'm going to get this one. 4 tournaments. Is it Cristiano Ronaldo?
Hey, 3 cheers for Ramirez.
Correct.
Yes. Always try Ronaldo if it's a goal scoring thing.
And yeah, it's not Messi around that can play in these games as well.
But it shows again with Ronaldo that it took me 2 guesses to get to him, and then it just may as well say Ronaldo, but he's not set a Euros alight in the same way as Platini has, really.
Even though that he won it as well with Portugal, he was, I think with that tournament, he was kind of seen as, wasn't he the best player of the tournament, and he scored goals there, but in reality, Portugal kind of stuttered their way, and he obviously didn't play in the final either, and he was almost managing them in the final, wasn't he, running down the touchline?
Yeah, it's an amazing story, but I'm glad I got that one. Thank God. Yeah. My quiz record on this show is 100% still intact.
Yeah. And still intact is England's lead as well. And they actually start to pop the ball around from side to side.
Yeah, about 10 minutes to go. They're just calming everything down.
Yeah, go from out wide, then back into the middle, take the edge off the game. And really, I was incredibly impressed with this. They just take all the sting out of it and they just run the clock down. I mean, they think they're a competent side, this England. What are we doing watching these?
Take the mask off.
I know who's under there.
I know you better than you know yourself. And you will bottle it.
Well, there you go. But, nice little spell to watch, and long spell of possession here for England coming up. And, are they going to do something with it?
Before the game, the temperatures being what they were, there were comparisons being made here to England's last game in the World Cup finals against West Germany in Leon, when a lead was lost in dramatic circumstances. Francis and Mariner! That surely wraps it up for England.
Yeah, with 7 minutes to go, England kill the game off in a scrappy way to end quite a beautiful move, really, too.
I don't know why that song came into head. It's celebration time. England are 3-1 up in a World Cup opener against France. Only 7 minutes to go. Yeah, as you say, very scrappy. England keep possession for what seems like forever, pretending that they're a competent side that we all don't know. I mean, they might still bottle it, but Ricks crosses to the left-hand side of the area, finding Wilkins, who knocks it back first time to Francis. Francis has a shot, which is blocked by a defender, but it just falls perfectly to Marina, who is onside and lashes it low to secure England the points. It's a bit of the type of goal. These are the kind of breaks England don't get in most big games.
Yeah, it just falls perfectly for him, doesn't it? It's straight away, lashes it home, lovely. And again, another muted celebration, lonely. I think there's one player that walks up and shakes his hand, and then he's basically just waving at the crowd as he goes back to the centre circle.
He just got 2 hands in the air, almost going, "This is my goal." And I don't care if it's just to make the win a bit more comfortable. It's a bloody World Cup.
Absolutely. I mean, this was then Mariners' 5th goal in consecutive games.
You'd rather go into the last 5 minutes 3-1 up than 2-1 up, wouldn't you? It's a massive goal.
I think it absolutely is. I mean, Paul Mariner, he seems a busy bugger, always running down the channels, holding the ball up. He looks like a minor character from Alfieda's Aim Pet. I put in a little picture of him. He definitely looks like he owns a Harley Davidson in that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's very that era.
What a look. So it looks like, there's not long to go. A game, a few chances, some good defending. England look like to worn France down. I mean, what would you say? Let's just skip to it. Really, England win.
England win, very comfortable in the end. I mean, they kept. I was very impressed when England actually took the lead. It took them a while to do so and to get back in the game and create a chance out of nothing really. But once they take the lead, they never look like in danger of throwing it away.
Yeah, a good performance, or do you think France kind of failed, flattered to deceive, or failed to turn up, or?
Maybe failed to turn up. I mean, I think as their tournament goes on, they change their side a little bit, but still someone like a Platini who's not quite turned up yet, but fantastic for England. I was really, really impressed.
Yeah, England beat a very good side. It's the start of hopefully a long and glorious World Cup. There was a stat that not a stat, a little opinion maybe. Nick, do you want to share your little hot take?
Yeah, is this England's best opening game of a World Cup ever?
What's the competition?
Is it the best game? You mean like
what other good?
What is their competition?
Yeah.
What other England results? Well, since '66, England their only wins at World Cups in opening games was in 1970 against Romania here, and against Tunisia twice in '98 and 20 years later in 2018. Their other results were losing against Italy in 2014 and drawing against Sweden, USA, and Republic of Ireland.
I don't think there's any competition then.
No.
I think this is, without a doubt, bang, put your cards on the table. This is England's best ever opening World Cup game.
Fantastic.
I don't even think it would be beaten if we performed really well at the opener of the one coming up. I forget, is it USA we start off against? Or
we may be Iran.
I mean, beating Iran isn't the same as beating France, is it?
It's not this French team as well, who are kind of quite star-studded and as we'll come on to in a bit, do all right.
The quality of the competition, the 3-1 result, you can't beat it.
Not playing at a World Cup for so long as well. I mean, the euphoria that must have come around that and the actual excitement of we're back, we're at a World Cup again and doing well.
Yeah. How did we continue in the tournament, Nick? Do you want me to kind of have a little run through?
Yeah. Do you want to do England?
Yeah, go on then. So we're going to look at how both teams fared post this game. England would beat Czechoslovakia and Kuwait in the first group stage of the World Cup, going on to play West Germany and Spain in the second group stages. 2 group stages in a World Cup.
2 group stages just seems so wild, doesn't it? Of like, you've got to go through 2 groups to get to a semi-final.
But you can see how the quality increases because the first group is obviously France, Czechoslovakia, and Kuwait, and then you got West Germany and Spain in the so it's a step up.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
England would draw 0-0 with West Germany and also draw against host Spain and go out of the World Cup at that stage. The Spain game in particular is remembered for England missing a plethora of chances, most notably Kevin Keegan's late-headed miss. Yeah. Which in my head, for some reason, I know the miss that we're talking about there. I always thought it was from like a World Cup qualifier or something. Like maybe I'm just getting it mixed up with that Poland game that we watched, which is obviously he was on the bench for, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think he comes off the bench. Obviously, he's rushed back to fitness, and I don't even think he plays for England again after that either. But
it was a West Germany win against Spain that made sure England were out and didn't make it to the semi-final. England kind of stutter, in that group stage. It's in that second group stage. Excuse me. It's big teams and a big stage to turn up to, and they're not in perfect harmony. There's a bit of a tussle between Greenwood and his assistant. Greenwood kind of ends up leaning more towards his assistant's ideas, which is more defence orientated, rather than the natural attacking instincts that he had and that saw him, do so well with West Ham and obviously England. I do think it's a bit unfortunate for everyone. England went home having only conceded 1 goal in the tournament, which was this game.
And unbeaten.
Unbeaten.
It's just crazy, isn't it, really? We think when England England go through 2 group stages unbeaten and go home.
Yeah. Well, we would have just got knocked out in penalties if it wasn't a group stage then, probably.
Yeah, true. We would have done that.
Greenwood would retire after the tournament, meaning everyone's favourite granddad, Bobby Robson, would take over. That's a a bit of a nice era to cover. We'll get there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it seems a bit early for Greenwood to be doing that. I mean, he's clearly got a good England side together. Maybe he just thinks after he was kind of to and fro with it after the qualification campaign, maybe he just thought, I can't go through it again. I mean, I'm not sure the age he would have been, but maybe just thought, you know what, I've taken it as far as I can. Bobby Robson, I think he was Ipswich at the time, and they were doing really, really well. So, yeah. It's a new era for them.
So how did France get on?
Yeah, so France beat Kuwait and drew with Czechoslovakia to go through to the second group stage. They're drawn with Austria and Northern Ireland, so a lot easier than what England had.
We've been stitched up there.
They won both their games and go through to play West Germany in the semi-finals. And really what follows is one of the most dramatic nights in World Cup history. The game ending 3-3, West Germany winning on penalties, and the most infamous moment of the night comes when West Germany's goalkeeper Schumacher makes an awful challenge on Patrick Battisson.
Yeah,
it's terrible. I mean, he leaves him unconscious, 3 cracked ribs, damaged vertebra, and missing 2 teeth, and no foul was given. I mean, what is going on there? Really,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, but interesting. England played 2 semi-finalists in the tournament and didn't lose it to either of them. And you do wonder how they'd have got on in the tournament if they hadn't have, lost any of their 6 games. They didn't lose any of them. That's the thing. One for another day of what happens here. But you just think knockout tournament, you've got such a chance there. You're playing West Germany, who are a great West German side, who obviously made the final.
Yeah.
But maybe one to dive into a bit deeper another day.
So that's it then. Was this England? That's the only question left to ask. Nick, what do you think?
Not really. I don't think it's very England. It seemed too in control, and not many scares apart from the goal, which comes from nothing. Not very England, but a great result.
Yeah, I'd agree. Not England at all, really. It's a great win and a great performance, but that doesn't necessarily. England are capable of good performances. A game being very England doesn't have to be negative, but it's not like this. It's not this comfortable.
It was not supposed to be this easy, was it?
Yeah, but it's good to know something like this has actually happened.
Yeah, exactly.
I was completely unaware. So congratulations, England 1982, for your fantastic start to the World Cup.
Yeah, and your fantastic kit as well.
Fantastic kit, absolutely. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us on social media at isthisengland, and you can get in touch via email at isthisenglandpod@gmail.com. I think that's pretty much everything for today. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
You may be a stranger, that's what time